Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Meghalaya Compulsory Registration of Marriage Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration.
Motion moved. I will now put the question before the House. The question is that the bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye. Aye. Those who are against say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. And the motion for consideration is adopted. Now amendments have been received to this bill tabled by Shri Adilbat Nongrum, MLA.
Prerogative, sir, I submit a notice through, under Rules 84, that there's no time limit. Please, sir, consider, because it's a very important subject for all of us, not for me alone. Please, sir.
You may move only the deletion of the existing words, whereas further it is mandatory for married men and married women to compulsorily furnish a marriage certificate for all purposes shall be deleted, and examination is required on the definition of the words official purposes.
I rise by moving an amendment to the amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to move amendment to the Meghalaya Compulsory Registration of Marriage Amendment Bill 2022. My amendment seeks to delete Section 2 of the bill, which proposes to amend the preamble of the Principal Act, that is the Meghalaya Compulsory Registration of Marriage Act 2012. We understand that through the preamble it's not enforceable in a code of law, yet it encapsulates the spirit of the Act, and it explains the purpose of why the Act was framed. It will be good enough if all honorable members will be attentive, because it will be very important for each of us. So, today, if the Minister in charge registration is introduced a bill to amend Section 2 by proposing to delete and that marriage certificate shall be required for all official purposes. It can be construed that there is a legislative intent to dilute the very purpose of the Act to the extent that it will amputate the Compulsory Registration of Marriage Act and make it stand on only one foot against us. That sounds right. If I may provide a little background information on the subject, we all know that the Machifrang movement has been at the forefront of demanding compulsory registration of marriage, and they believe that the requirement of marriage certificate for all official purposes, as mandated by the Act of 2012, effectively provide a solution to the problem that abandoned women face when left without maintenance to look after themselves and children. Now, if we turn to the statement of object and reason of the Amendment Bill 2022, we see it states that, and I quote, its usages in other services which may be regulated under separate Act, rules, etc. I can say that as of now, other than the Compulsory Registration of Marriage Act, there is no other Act or rule by which the requirement of marriage certificate for all official purposes is being regulated. May I also quote what the Honorable Chief Minister had make a statement during my 0 hours notice, which I have brought in 11/3/2021, this very same subject in a 0 hours notice. I'll quote, however, a legal marriage registration certificate will prove one's marriage valid under the code of law. A marriage certificate is an official statement establishing the material status of a couple. It is an important document which one can rely upon to prove that they are legally married to someone, and of various purposes, like obtaining a passport, opening a bank account, changing one maiden name, and applying for income certificate, among other things. Mr. Speaker, sir, so I will continue his quote. So registering a marriage is most important from the woman empowerment point of view. This is a very good example that we are all celebrating a International Women's Day, just recent days. But without having a strong law, I feel that this act it will become a toothless act. So, sir, before I resume my seat, I feel it is necessary to keep the Compulsory Registration of Marriage Act in its present form, and I may humble appeal that this August House do not approve the Meghalaya Compulsory Registration of Marriage Amendment Bill 2022. As for me, the mover of this amendment to the bill, I stand all out to oppose. Sir, it's not because I just simply react of my opposition, but there is a strong the objective of this very purpose, of this very act, it doesn't serve the purpose. That's why, sir, I believe myself that what is right is right, what is wrong is wrong, what is black is black, what is white is white. So with this few words,
Madam Member, you can confine only to that
okay,
original one, because today the
I have
one
concluded, sir.
1 minute.
Yes.
Because today what you have submitted to me cannot be accepted. Because on the Rule 77(1) of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business, it requires 2 clear days to give for the amendments.
Anyway.
Yeah, you may continue if you want.
Okay. No, I conclude, sir.
Thank you very
so
much.
much. Yeah, I'll resume my seat.
So, I just wanted to, at the very outset, express my thanks to the Honourable Member who has brought this amendment to the amendment bill, sir. Not from the point of view of bringing the amendment, but from the point of view of the concerns that he has for women, especially married women who are abandoned by their husbands, and such kind of women who find themselves, at a very, very weak position, sir. So, from that point of view, sir, I wanted to say this at the very outset that I think what he is talking about and what we as a government want, I think it's one and the same thing, that the protection of women is of the utmost importance for us as a government, sir. But having said that, sir, I think the Honourable Member, though his intentions may be good, I think the approach is wrong. Because for us as a government, what we are trying to do here, as he had said, that there is a legislative intent to dilute this. But sir, on the contrary, what I want to say here is that our intent is not to dilute, sir. Our purpose and our intent is to make sure that women do not have to face such kind of problems, sir. Now, let me, sir, give a brief background of the matter at hand to this august House, sir, so that there is clarity, and I hope the Honourable Member understands what we are trying to do by bringing this amendment to this Act, sir. So the Meghalaya Compulsory Registration of Marriage Act 2012 was enacted to provide for compulsory registration of marriage in the state and for matters connected therewith, sir. So Section 3 of the Principal Act makes it mandatory for a married man and woman to compulsorily furnish a marriage certificate issued under the Act for all official purposes. So by an amendment in 2017, through insertion of a new Section 3B, the provisions of the Act were made applicable to the parties to the marriage or in case of living together or cohabitation not covered by their respective personal laws, sir. So it is pertinent to mention here that the legislature chose not to define the term official purpose in the Principal Act of 2012. It was thus left to interpretation as to whether the marriage certificate issued under the 2012 Act will serve only as a conclusive proof of marriage for all official purposes, or it shall be the only document which can prove a marriage for any official purposes. Therefore, for want of any definition of the term official purposes, the Principal Act of 2012 was used only for the purposes of registration of marriages per se. However, by way of an amendment of the Act in 2019, the term official purposes was defined as under, and I quote, and unquote, sir, official purposes in relation to the said act shall mean a contract of marriage entered between the parties for addressing issues pertaining to pension, succession, and maintenance of spouse. So it is observed that the sole purpose of the Principal Act was to ensure that all marriages in Meghalaya on or after the appointed date are compulsorily registered, and this process has the necessary statutory backing through this enactment, sir. This is, sir, clearly mentioned in the statement of object and reasons, sir. However, the statutory mandate of production of such certificates issued under this Act for various purposes to other authorities or officers under the other acts or rules was not the intent of this particular Act. This is also evident from the title of the Act, which focuses on compulsory registration of marriages in general and not necessarily on its usage application with respect to other services, sir. Sir, which I hope the Honourable Member understands that the purpose of the Act was to bring about compulsory registration of marriages. Whether that marriage certificate is required for, say, apart from maintenance of spouse or succession or pension, say for an example, driving license, that is incumbent, sir, on the Transport Department, which will frame the rules for that, sir. So this is just an example to illustrate what I'm trying to say, sir. Like a caste certificate also, another example, sir. So, and also, sir, it appears to restrict the existing generic portion of Section 3, which reads that every marriage contracted in the state shall be compulsorily registered in the manner provided in Section 5. So as stated earlier, it is clear from the reading of the preamble of the Act that its intent was for compulsory registration of marriage in the state and not for any consequential purposes mandating need of marriage certificate for purposes not connected with registration of marriage. The present definition of the term official purposes is limited to addressing issues pertaining to pension, succession, and maintenance of spouse. With this restricted definition, many other issues, both official and non-official, will not be covered under this Act. It is also somewhere causing the confusion in the minds of people that the compulsory registration of marriage is confined to only purposes of pension, succession, and maintenance of spouse. The Act, in its application, is actually, sir, all-pervasive, applicable to the whole of Meghalaya, including government, semi-government, private, organized, unorganized sectors, etc., sir. And the term official purposes is, to that extent, a very broad-ended term, difficult to define, sir. We have consulted with the law department, we have consulted with the learned AG, and it is, sir, a very, very difficult endeavor to really define official purposes. So as it is not possible to widen the definition of the term official purpose to cover all issues that may arise in a marriage and restricting the definition to cover only issues presently contained in the existing definition is not ideal, sir. Therefore, it was felt necessary to do away with the part of the preamble and of Section 3 that presently requires the production of such marriage certificate for all purposes. This may also have a positive impact where various authorities may take cognizance of the marriage certificate issued under the Act for various official and unofficial purposes. Sir, in this regard, after due perusal of similar acts and reports by other states and also by the Government of India, sir, for example, we have gone through Mizoram, Himachal Pradesh, Gujarat, Delhi, the National Commission for Women draft on the Compulsory Registration of Marriages Bill 2005, and also the Law Commission of India's report number 270 on compulsory marriage registration issued in July 2017. So it is clearly evident that the purpose of such enactments is confined to the compulsory registration of marriage and related matters only. However, the phrase related matters does not include compulsory mandate of production of such marriage certificates to other authorities for matters regulated under separate acts or rules, etc. It would be more appropriate that the same be included in other acts, rules through the concerned departments based on the actual legal requirements of the respective acts or rules as and when needed. So, as I was mentioning, the caste certificate, that would be the prerogative of the political department to decide on whether that is required or not. Driving license, the prerogative of the transport department, whether it is required or not. So, in view of the above, an amendment is being proposed to the said act to delete the phrase in quotes, and such marriage certificate shall be required for all official purposes, unquote, at the end of section 3. Accordingly, section 2J, which defines official purposes, is also proposed to be deleted, being redundant due to proposed amendment of section 3 as above, sir. It is also proposed that the portion, I quote, whereas further it is mandatory for married man and married women to compulsorily furnish a marriage certificate for all official purposes, unquote, is deleted from the preamble of the Act, as the same is not the intent of the Act as per its title as explained above, sir. With these few clarifications made about the Meghalaya Compulsory Registration of Marriage Amendment Bill 2022, I am hopeful, sir, and I request Honourable Member Shri Adelbert Nongram to kindly withdraw the amendment motion moved by him and to allow passing of the Meghalaya Compulsory Registration of Marriage Amendment Bill 2022. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Madam. May I now know the minor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir. Before I take a final decision, one more time, I would like to reiterate my stand. Why? Because compulsory registration of Marriage Act will not serve the purpose. Just a compulsory registration, what does it spell out? But what my intention, clear intention is that's why I use words that the legislation intend to dilute. Why? Because the very words official purposes was not there anymore. Therefore, I will not withdraw. And I will clearly state that I don't have any decision along with the government regarding this very subject.
Now let me put the question before the House. The question is that the amendment brought to this bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye, say no. Those who are against say yes. The noes have it, and the amendment to the bill is rejected. Now I will put the question before the House. The question is that the bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye. Those who are against say no. The ayes have it, and the motion for consideration is adopted. Sri James P.K. Sama, Minister in charge Education, to move that the Minister in charge Registration, Taxation and Stamps to move that Meghalaya Settlement of Areas under State Taxation Acts Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration. Minister, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Meghalaya Settlement of Arrears under the State Taxation Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration.
Motion moved. I will now put a question before the House. The question is that bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye. Those who are against say no. The ayes have it, and the motion for consideration is adopted. Now we come to item number 12. Sri James P.K. Sama, Minister in charge Education, to move that the Minister in charge Registration, Taxation and Stamps to move that the Registration Meghalaya Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration. Minister, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Registration Meghalaya Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration.
Motion moved. I will now put the question before the House. The question is that the bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye. Those who are against say no. The ayes have it, Now, and the motion for consideration is adopted. Now we come to item number 14. Sri Conrad K. Sama, Chief Minister in charge, Finance, to move that the Meghalaya Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration. Chief Minister, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Meghalaya Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration.
Motion moved. I will now put the question before the House. The question is that the bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye. Aye. Those who are against say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. And the motion for consideration is adopted.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Contingency Fund of Meghalaya Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration.
Motion moved. Now let me put the question before the House. The question is that bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye. Those who are against say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. And the motion for consideration is adopted. Now we come to item number 18. Sri Bante Dorlindo, Minister in charge of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, to move that the Meghalaya State Agricultural Produce and Livestock Marketing, Production and Facilitation Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration. Minister, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that Meghalaya State Agriculture, Produce and Livestock Marketing, Promotion and Facilitation Amendment Bill 2022 be taken into consideration.
Motion moved. I will now put the question before the House. The question is that the bill be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor say aye. Those who are against say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. And the motion for consideration is adopted.